Welcome to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast, where master business coach Janet Fish and her special guests explore the characteristics and traits that lead entrepreneurs to success. Get ready for real conversations of what it takes to overcome real challenges and break away from your competition. Here's your host, Janet Fish.
Hey, thanks, Ben. If you're considering purchasing a new home and want a complimentary 30-minute pre-approval consultation, text the words home loan to area code 408-799-6853. Ross Rushton is a California licensed loan officer with Fairway Independent Mortgage. He specializes in getting people who never thought they could own a home into their first home. Call him now. Today's episode is about the power of hiring team. Brett Tremblay is a prominent Florida lawyer who's learned the value of delegation. In our conversation, Brett shares how if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. I just love that. And how a hiring team is an asset, not an expense. If you've thought about hiring a virtual assistant, listen to this episode. You'll come away understanding how you can free yourself up to do the revenue-producing work that will make the biggest difference in your bottom line. I hope you enjoy our chat. All right, Breakaway Entrepreneurs, welcome to another episode of the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast. We have Brett Tremblay with us today. I'm just going to read a little bit about you, Brett, and then I'm going to let you give us a little bit more of your background. Sure. So he's from the South Florida legal community, and in that community, Brett is a former president of the South Miami Kendall Bar Association and former vice chair of the Florida Bar 11th Circuit Grievance Committee 11I. He also volunteers on the Florida Bar Young Lawyers Division Mentoring Program, the Dade-County Bar Association's Rainmakers Committee, and annually volunteers for Miami-Dade County's Ethical Governance Day. Brett has also been named a Super Lawyers Rising Star in Florida for the past 3 years. Awesome. Welcome, Ben. Brett, I'm so sorry. Welcome, Brett. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I think the thing that's left off there is just for credibility and so people know who they're listening to. I went from a 1 attorney firm to 10, and we just hit the Inc. 5000 this year. And so, and now I have some other entrepreneurial endeavors, which I'm excited to talk about.
Well, awesome. And I know that there's a lot. You sent me a long list of your accomplishments, which are below. I just didn't read all of them. So I'm excited to not only get to know you a little bit from your role as an attorney, but I also want to explore the get staffed up, because I bet you want to talk a little bit about that today as well.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk about anything you want, Janet, like we said. So lots of struggles along the way on the entrepreneurial journey, and lots of opportunities met and challenges overcome, as you well know.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me how you became an attorney, and tell me about how things, were when you started out, and then talk about you just said you went from how many to how many? Say that again.
Yeah. So we're recording this on November 4th. November 1st, it was the 9th year anniversary of my law firm. I started just me. And I was like that until 2014. And I finally got over my mental hurdles and started hiring. And here we are with 25 staff people and 10 attorneys. So yeah, we've had some pretty big growth.
So talk about some of the challenges and how you overcame them to continue your growth journey.
I think that the challenge was, there's a saying that you don't know what you don't know. I didn't even know that I had mental blocks. I didn't know that, as Tony Robbins said, 80% of the hang up in any business is the mindset of the owner. I didn't know anything about sort of like the mindset and that decisions drive reality, and that I had a fear of failure. I went to law school just because I wasn't ready to grow up. I wanted to keep going to school. And then I liked it, and I wanted to be a litigation attorney. I had dreams of being this, awesome courtroom litigator. So I worked at a very small firm for about 2.5 years. And in my youth, I used to make my own money and, just come up with different things to do. And so I always fancied myself an entrepreneur. always knew that I wanted to work for myself, and I decided to start my own law firm. And like I said a few minutes ago, the first 2.5 years, it was a big struggle. And I didn't really know why. I just thought you start a business and things happen. I didn't know how much went into the different parts of a business, the mechanics, and then the mindset. And I was finally convinced to hire someone, right? And if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. And I was spending about 90% of my time being an assistant and about 10% of my time being a lawyer. So I finally hired someone, and I doubled my revenues the very next month. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I guess this works. But for me to get to the point where I made the decision to hire somebody was such a painful process, because I didn't know where my next client was going to come from, and if I was going to be able to pay myself, et cetera. So I look back on it fondly, and I love the journey, but it was a painful time for me.
Now, did you have a community, or did you have mentors or coaches, or is that something when you look back, you said that is something I might have wanted to look into, so I'm not doing this all by myself?
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough in college to have a lot of mentors. But then once I moved out, and I originally grew up outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and now I live in Miami. So I moved out for law school, and I didn't know a soul. And that's not an exaggeration. And then when I graduated law school, most of my friends moved back to the Northeast. So once again, I didn't know anybody. And so when I started the law firm, I didn't have a nest egg. Not only did I not have money, I had credit card and student loan debt like most people deal with now. And those things never deterred me. I always thought I would be successful, and maybe very naively so. I just I've always been good at things. I've come up with ways to control my own destiny in the past. So I'm going to do it again. And that's what I did. And I just worked, but I was on the hamster wheel, and I couldn't figure out what is basically simple math. Okay. And especially in the legal field, if you're billing 1 hour per day, or just doing 1 hour of legal work per day, I know, get ready for this. This is mind-blowing magic, right? You go from 1 hour to 2 hours, you doubled the amount of time. Wow. I know. And so then you double your firm, and like, I'm kind of mocking myself, but like those lessons seem so simple now. And looking back, I was so afraid to hire someone and then not be able to afford them, because I looked at hiring someone as an expense, not an asset. And yeah. And so, but to answer your question, I did eventually get some mentors and some coaches to help me. And I really, everyone's a guru these days. I get 100 messages on LinkedIn per day. Like, I help lawyers, get leads. And I'm like, no, you don't. You're lying. That's okay. But you're new, but no, you don't. You do not have hundreds of clients. Just be honest with me. So you definitely need to be careful of who you work with. And that's really important. But when you work with the right people, Janet, and I know that this is your world, oh man, it makes a huge difference. And I know you have stories of seeing people have breakthroughs and growing, and how life-changing it is.
Yeah. So I want to pursue the hiring part in a minute, because that's really one of the things I really want to focus on. But I want to ask you and kind of explore a little bit with you, when you're at that point where it's not working, right? Okay. So you don't have a nest egg, you don't have a lot of money coming in. Like, how did you, because I just know so many people who stop at that point, right? Was it just the conviction that I know I'm going to make it, and it doesn't matter what I have to go through to get there? Like, what stopped you from quitting, and how did you just get the wherewithal or the whatever to just keep going?
So, it's funny, before I opened my law firm, and I you talk about just how things change. I started making $52,000 a year. That was my 2008. I was lucky to have a job, really. I'm not complaining, but going through all that law school, and that's what I was making. I had the idea of moonlighting. I was like, well, I could probably bartend, and I know a lot of people do that. It's like, and I hope this comes across the right way, but because the market will allow me to, I had the ability to charge, $10 at the time $250 an hour, but yet I was going to go work for $10 an hour in tips, like at night, because I was young. I mean, that's just backwards thinking. And, I think there was a time, I really hate to admit this, but that's okay. Where I was I remember in my Jeep at the time, old thing about to break down. And I thought maybe I should just go work for another law firm. And it entered my head very quickly and it left even quicker. I was so afraid of that thought because I would have felt like a total failure. Again, fear of failure was my motivator. It was also my detriment in a lot of ways. And so I don't know where it comes from, except the subconscious ego where you just like, I can't quit. I can't be a failure. And I just kept pushing through.
Well, and we talk a lot on this podcast about the biggest challenges that you face also get you to the biggest breakthroughs, right? And oftentimes, and I see it on my clients all the time, when their backs are pushed against the wall, that's when they break through, right? Because the challenge is so big. The bigger the challenge, the bigger the breakthrough. And I get from what our conversation so far, your business is growing and is growing exponentially because you got early on. What did you say? I'm the assistant, right? I could be the lawyer. I could be an assistant. I was spending all my time being the assistant. So let's talk about, because I know that's another business of yours. How do you know, like people always ask me, how do you hire? And I don't focus specifically on virtual assistants or whatever. And there's a process that I take people through to help them identify who to hire first. But I can see in anybody who's an entrepreneur should hire some kind of a virtual assistant or some kind of assistant to do the stuff that they don't like to do and they're not good at. So take that anywhere you want because you're the expert in that. Like, I'd love for you to cover how you did it. I'd love for you to cover, just start wherever you want to start. And then I'll take it kind of where I want to take it because I've got some great questions about that.
Okay. Yeah. So so there's the mindset behind hiring, like I can't afford it, et cetera. And then eventually making the decision. And then there's the cost. And what I love about Get Staffed Up is we lower the cost so much that it makes the other part of the decision a lot easier. And that helps a lot of people who, like me, were just terrified of making that first hire because I thought I couldn't afford that person. So you have to start off with exactly what you just said, what you're not good at and what's not making you money, what's taking your time. So if you need an admin person around you, you need somebody who's going to do your email, your calendar, your messages, like get all the clutter out of your life. And one of the exercises that, and look, we have a very quickly growing company, but we're not, maybe because of COVID, right? Someday I would love to be on a stage helping people have a breakthrough moment and changing their life. That would be a cool place to get for me. We're not quite there yet, but we do it one-on-one in sales calls all the time, or as we call them, decision-making calls, because we're telling people, write down for 1 week all of the things you do. Just as soon as you get to work, just write it all down. And a lot of our clients are lawyers because we're founded by me and my business partner. And so it's easy for us in that world to track our time. We're used to it. Okay. But if you're not, write down everything you do in a day. I got up, went to the bathroom, I checked my email, I looked at, a text message. And if that seems like too much, pay someone like $50 for, a day to stand behind you and just write it all out. But I'm dead serious about that. If you are serious about growing, and then take the list at the end of the week and highlight everything that you don't like doing, take another color and highlight everything that you don't think's making you good money, and then another color and everything that is really getting in the way of what your actual business is. And you didn't go in business to spend all your day arguing with people on email, responding right away. Email is one of the worst killers of productivity and happiness that has ever existed. I created an email system called Taming the Monster one time for entrepreneurs to help teach them on how to have an assistant take over their email. So, and that predated, this business Get Staffed Up. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my mindset, right? Been helping people for a while learn how to become better versions of themselves. And I hope that's not a throwaway line, because I truly mean that. But that's the exercise. You take the 3 different colors that you highlighted, and those are the things you start delegating. And
It's so funny that you say that because my exercise is same thing. Write down everything you do for the day, week, month, whether it's in your business or in your personal, because that's a great place to start as well. And then I just do 2 columns, check off what you like to do and what you're good at. I like the added and what's making you money, but just to get people started on just like having somebody buy their groceries, mow their lawn for them, file, like you said, virtually handle email, there's just so many things that we all do that we don't like to do, and it's not making us money. So I just love our great minds thinking alike. And yet I still hear people say that they can't afford it. So I mean, I know what my answer to that is, and I always kind of go through like, if you pay somebody a certain amount of money and you carve out a certain amount of hours and it costs you this, you can go out and marketing, you can make that money back. If you can't, you shouldn't be in that business. What do you say to people when they say, I can't afford it, other than work with us, get staffed up because we can reduce the cost? But it just always seems to be the fear that people have, or the objection that they have. Maybe that's not the real underlying reason. But what do you say to people when they say I can't afford it?
There's a book called The 80-20 Marketing Rule by Perry Marshall, and it's just so mind-blowingly good. It's so good. I don't talk about the book all the time in a selfish way, because people that do what I do, I don't want them to read the book. and look, I have an abundance mindset, but at the same time, it's like, I do try to stand out, right? We've put so much effort into having better systems at my law firm, and now it gets staffed up and just being a better company to do business with. And so, the money part of it, you have to realize, and again, I was one of these people, so this is not putting anyone down, but you've got to get to the point where you realize, okay, whatever I do, it's got to be worth a number. Okay. If I get an assistant to save me X amount of hours per day, well, let me just multiply how much more money I'll make. And you should easily clear that huddle. Let's get staffed up. Okay. Our middle level service is an administrative virtual assistant. And what makes us different, the reason I have a little bit more of a 3 highlighter, it doesn't have to be that complicated, but I want you to realize how much you can delegate. Because what we also run into is people think when I started hiring my first attorney, I wanted to get the cheapest attorney I could right out of law school. And somebody convinced me, this is back in 2015, stand up in front of the whole room, and you have to promise us you will hire someone with more experience than you that you think's better than you. And it cost me a lot more money, but wow, was it one of the best things I ever did. You have to realize that the money, you're going to save yourself. It's going to be there. So what people do is they say, well, I think I want a virtual assistant for 5 hours per week. And I'm not saying you can't start there, but if you're a serious entrepreneur and you're serious about growth, our administrative virtual assistants, because we do full-time only. We don't play time Tetris, which is what I think 90% of staffing companies do. They sell you 5 hours here, 10 hours of this person here. And then their business model is getting someone to work for them and then trying to fill up 40 hours a week with a bunch of different businesses. And then you never know what you're getting, or you're always waiting on things. So we do full-time only. And because it's $1,850 a month, $1,850 a month, all in, you pay that straight to us. There's no withholding for you, no taxes. We're taking care of the recruiting, and then ongoing, we're taking care of all the HR nightmares and the compliance and the taxes and the different labor and employment laws in the countries that we recruit from. So if in the lawyer world, right, that's 3, 6, 9, 12. If you save yourself 6 hours that entire month, then you've already got that person paid for an entire month. But what normally happens is you're going to save yourself 2.5 to 3 hours a day from day one. And then as you get more efficient at delegating and as your assistant learns to do more and more, you can just get so much done. So another example is if I was starting a digital marketing firm, because that's like everyone has a digital marketing firm now, it seems like. I would find a really good virtual assistant, $18.50 a month, or our highest levels of marketing assistant, right? There's people in other countries, educated, motivated, really fun to work with, that know how to do a lot of different marketing. They're assistants. They're not marketing directors. You can't just say, run with this thing. You still have to lay out the program. But let's say you're doing social media posts for your clients and blogs, et cetera. Most of those services cost more in the US for, like 10 tweets and 20 Instagram posts and 2, blog posts per month. A lot of companies are charging $2,000, right? So as soon as I have my second client, I'm already profitable and I'm not lifting a finger. If I was to invest or own a restaurant, I would never cook. I would hire the best cook possible.
Sure.
You and I know two people that said we're going to start a business together, and we're making it a rule, a bylaw. We cannot do the work. We are going to always work on the business. And so when you start to look at it like you're not starting a job for yourself, but you're starting a business and you're going to feed the business, you just have to cover the amount that assistant costs you. And it's really rather easy. And then you rinse and repeat. And as the 80-20 rule in the book I talked about says, every quarter, every 6 months, you get rid of 80% of stuff on your plate. And it takes a while. I know that seems like, 2 times in, I would have nothing. It's not true. Man, we do a lot of things, Janet. But you'll get to the point where you're focused on the highest and best use of your time. And that's when things start to get really fun.
Now, I also hear people who say, well, no one can do it like I can do it. And we all know that sometimes that's all ego, right?
Yeah.
But what do you say to people who have the thought that, I can't let go. No one can do it like I can do it.
Yeah. Or, well, I really care about everything my name's on. It's got to be perfect. My response is always like, so I don't care.
Poor. Yeah.
Well, that, and like, I don't care what my name's on. Only you have to be perfect. The whole, and I hate to keep using the attorney example, but attorneys, I can't hire someone because no one's as good as me. You're wrong. Someone can do it almost as good as you, if not as good or better. It's your ego getting in the way, or you're making excuses, or you can just be a slave. I mean, do you want to be the cook your whole life, or do you want to own the restaurant?
Yeah. And I love what you said. That's the 80-20 rule, right? So I'm kind of all about the Big Leap book that they talk about your zone of genius. And so when you look at the 80-20 rule, you're really only zone of genius is only going to be in that 20% place, right? Exactly. So that should be where you spend all your time and your energy. And even if, like, for me, I'm trading time for money. Like, I trade my time because I want to consult with entrepreneurs. I do some group things, which makes it more available. But I'm a high paid coach. I don't take a whole lot of clients, but I'm still doing that. And I've thought about doing some other things, like training other coaches to do my 10-step process and all that. But at the end of the day, that's not the direction that I want to go. But I am absolutely sure what my zone of genius is and what I want to do with that. And it's all that other stuff, because guarantee we all do way, way, way more. I love that. Continuously delegate 80%. And it's not like in 2 months, all your stuff is gone, right? I mean, there's always that 80% of stuff that you shouldn't be doing, even when you're in your zone of genius. So I just think that's really, really, really great. So give us some examples of what people, in your experience, and I know a lot of them are attorneys, but I think we can probably all relate to that. What are the types of things that people are hiring virtual assistants to do?
That's a great question. I was going to tell you one quick story.
Sure.
Based on the last subject. We send out emails, and as I've learned, again, you learn a lot about going into different businesses, but cold emails, not that effective. we have a huge list at this point, but it's such a low open rate and click rate, but we still do it. I think it's good for branding. And we got a response one time to one of our email newsletters. This lady says, well, if this is how sloppy you guys work, then I would never want to work with you guys. And I'm like, oh man, what did we do? Like, wow. I hope we didn't mess anything up too bad. So I go into the email, and I crafted it, by the way, because we were starting the business, and I hadn't delegated that yet, but now I do, of course. And one tiny word was misspelled, and I read it again. I'm like, wow. So I want to respond to this lady, because her ego, something about sending me or us that email made her feel better about herself. Okay. Right. The human reaction was, I wanted to respond and say, that's why you have a dog on your website and no employees, and you'll be poor your whole life. Right. And then I'm like, well, why would you do that? You're trying to help people. Cause I was initially like defensive, and I admit that, but like part of me felt so bad for her. And the other part was what you said, right? Like you can continue to do everything yourself, because quote unquote, no one's better than you. But she had no intention of ever working with us, but whatever's going on in her life, it was to make her feel better that day. And you can't take things personally, and done is better than perfect. So when you do hire an assistant, you're going to have a few things that get messed up. But wow, it's better than leaving it for 2 years because it's supposed to be perfect, because we know those things never get done.
Yeah. And in my world, anybody who would respond to me in that way is not a client I would take anyway.
Exactly.
People show themselves, and you're like, nope, I'm pretty sure that person, because I guarantee they won't do the work, and it'll be my fault.
That's a great way to put it, Jan. That's a really good way to put it. I wouldn't have wanted to work with her anyway, but how you just put it is perfect.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you asked me, what are some of the things people are hiring for, right?
Yeah.
So we have 3 levels. The first is a clerical virtual assistant. And that is basically data entry. That's real. Like maybe you have a lot of data. That's the only position that we still hire out of the Philippines. It's another differentiator for us. 95% of our, what we call staffers, are out of Latin America. Same time zone, many more cultural similarities, and the English is really, really good. So, and that's the clerical virtual assistant is $1,550 a month. The administrative assistant is $1,850 a month, as I said before. And those are things like you can do your receptionist, which is a lot cheaper than having a full-time in-house, or having, depending on your call volume, you can do it a little bit more cost effectively with like a third-party reception. It doesn't sound great, and people are going to know that it's not, someone on your team, but it depends on your call volume. An intake coordinator, a personal and executive assistant, of course, legal assistant, and a client happiness director. There's a lot of those that we're starting to sell now. That's just somebody to go out of their way to make, do a great job for your clients. And on the marketing side of things, our virtual marketing assistants are doing basically whatever you need. And this is the one that I always get fired up about. It's like, why would entrepreneurs have 100 new ideas before they're done showering in the morning, right? And then we shelf them away in our minds, and they just metaphorically, have this huge stack of ideas that we never get to. It is so liberating, Janet, to be able to delegate all those ideas, because you're not paying someone that much, and you have a high wherewithal to start trying things out, because they say 50% of marketing works if I only knew which 50%.
Right.
So when you're paying a really expensive marketing coordinator, it's painful. And when you're paying through us, someone, as they say, near shore, like Latin America, and after they're
near shore, I like that.
Yeah, because we're not talking about sort of India and the Philippines and whatnot. Right. And they really start to learn your business. And wow, I mean, I have a lot of different projects going on, and I delegate all of them, and it feels awesome. Yeah, I still have to keep up with what I'm delegating, but you're talking, video channels, these types of podcasts. When we hang up, Janet, hopefully you're not doing anything but moving the footage to Google Drive and you're done with it. That's what I do, because for Get Staffed Up, we interview lawyers for different things. Social media coordinators, copywriting, graphic designers, newsletter coordinators. You could have someone make cold calls for you, tastefully, of course. You can have someone set up speaking gigs for you, do speaker profile sheets to get you on a bunch of podcasts. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And again, when you try to do project work, and people get confused with virtual assistants and VAs, because you can hire someone on Upwork to do a project for you. That's different. I still use Upwork for certain things, right, or my own, VAs do. But what we do is a full-time team member for you. 40 hours a week. They work only for you. There's no split loyalty. It's the same person for as long as you keep them. But we at Get Staffed Up remain the legal employer. So we take on all the headaches and liability. You pay us and we pay them, and we go find you someone amazing.
That's awesome. What do you like best about what you do?
My favorite thing is finding someone who is like me, who is afraid, and then pulls the trigger and just sort of gets it, like the light bulb goes off. And you know what? Another derivative benefit I have, we have a few people that say, well, aren't you taking jobs from people in the US? It's like, we're filling the high turnover positions that people in the US don't want anyway, and that those aren't lifetime positions. So they're constantly looking, as they should be, for their next higher paying, more fulfilling position. And some of the lives that we've been able to change we have a lot of stay-at-home moms that for some reason, that's, I guess, because all of our people work from home, we've made some really cool relationships and changed some people's lives in a great way. And when they thank us, and it is so fulfilling and heartwarming. And as I say, we're helping the global economy, and that's a great feeling.
Well, you're not only helping the people who actually are the virtual assistants, but look what you're doing for people that, when they finally get out of their own way and realize it's really a much better idea for $2,000 a month to hire a full-time person to do all my crap. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's just like, that's
a no-brainer.
It's an amazing, amazing thing. All right. I know that, let's see, I made some notes here. You have 10 ways to use a virtual assistant. Talk a little bit about that. I already checked it out. It's a flyer. It's really nice. Talk about what you're willing to give away to our people today.
So a few things. I mean, if you go to getstaffedup.com, that's one of our free resources, and that's available. When we come up with these resources, of course, we give them to our clients first, and then we wait a few weeks, and then we just put them up for the whole world. Sometimes, we use them as lead magnets. That one in particular is just to give you some ideas. As you were saying, what are some of the different things you can hire someone for? But we have other ones that are more specific for marketing coordinators or executive assistants. So, and the other thing, and I think I did 8 to 10 podcasts before I finally realized, somebody asked me, well, what offer do you have? And I'm like, that would have been smart of me to, to have one from day one. But anybody, Janet, who hears about us through you, can go to getstaffedup.com/VIP. And so if you type in getstaffedup.com/VIP, it takes you to a very simple contact page, first name, last name, phone number, email, and then how did you hear about us? Just say Breakaway Coach, say Janet Fish, whatever it is, and we will give you, whoever the client, if they sign up, $500 off of our startup fee. Our startup fee is $1,750. That's a one-time fee. So now you're down to $1,250, and we have incentives. If you're responsive while we're recruiting for you, you get another $500 off the back end. So, that's down to $750. That's nothing for us because, really the startup fee is so that you have stake in the game and you don't hire us to go do a bunch of work and then change your mind because you're still having sort of mindset issues. So, right. We're very happy to make that offer.
Awesome. So that offer will be in or is in the show notes below. One other question. I'm assuming you kind of hold the hands of some of the entrepreneurs who aren't quite, so they're ready to do it, but yet they have reservations, and like, do you kind of coach them through the process of getting their mindset and opening it up to how to really embrace a virtual assistant? Because I know how hard it can be to kind of to do that, make that leap, and then really figure out how to take the biggest advantage of it.
Sometimes, I like I said before, I wish I had more. In other words, I haven't delegated enough off my plate, as we talk about, because we have a, delegate your way to freedom is one of our trademark phrases. And I know your website talks about financial freedom and time freedom. And someday I would love to be able to help with those mindset issues. But right now, what I do is I direct the marketing team, and I make sure that the blogs are being posted and the newsletters are going out, and I'm jumping on podcasts. But I have not created time to really do one-on-one help people through their mindset right now.
Maybe there's a joint venture there for you and me to do something together where I help them with that. And anyway, planting some seeds.
Plan it. I've never turned down a collaboration conversation, and to help people. And I know that's you're probably much better than me. Have those mindset breakthroughs, but then to be able to provide something on the back end for them would be something that. Look, sales is something you do for someone, not to someone. And I just believe in what we're doing so much that I'm never shy to just tell people, look, if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. You can't refute that.
I love that. I absolutely love that. All right. Any last thoughts before we wrap?
No, I really enjoyed my time with you, Janet. Thank you so much. You're a fun person to talk to.
All right. Thank you. So, all right, Breakaway Entrepreneurs, while it's true that success starts with your mindset, it's massive action that gets you there. So once again, thank you, Brett. I'm super excited to get to know you. And I'm going to be following up with you because this is an opportunity that I think we might be able to do something with. This has been really, really enjoyable. All right. Thank you. Until next week, Ben, take us out.
Thank you for listening to the Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast. If you like the show, please rate, recommend, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts so we can share more actionable insights with the entrepreneur community. Until next time, challenge your mindset, be bold, take action, and financial freedom will follow. You can get helpful resources and templates to guide and inspire you from Janet's free Breakaway Entrepreneur Toolkit. Get it now by going to www.breakawaybusinesscoaching.com/toolkit.